over, as my shirt says, and listen. I want you to listen. Like, we're in a ball right now. It's crazy. It's loud. It's hectic. We're in New York City, but I want you to listen to the No Holds Barred Network.
Enough is enough. They're always taking their sides, careless and nine, plus and minus, they're divine.
Hey guys, welcome back to the No Holds Barred Network with another episode of Under the Ropes. I'm your host as always, the EVP of Giggles, the Heartbreak Chick, the Queen of the Indies, Tiffany, and I am joined by the Ray. You see me? I'm already messing up, Ray.
Yeah, I'm not even gonna let you introduce our guest.
You do it.
Because you're gonna mess him up and he's gonna be very mad. I'm not gonna let you do
okay.
it. So, first off, welcome everyone to another episode of Under the Ropes. My name is the Law Ray Ramundo, and we are joined by, he is one half of the legendary Hit Squad. He is a Jersey All-Pro Hall of Famer, a former USA Pro Wrestling Heavyweight Champion. He is Steve Monsta Mack. How are you doing, sir?
Hola, what's going on, folks? How's everybody doing tonight?
I'm good. I'm getting
Doing
yelled
good.
at by a Ray. Oh, I don't know. I don't appreciate this. You know what, Ray? You should just like toast Under the Ropes going forward. He's like,
Okay, that's it. It's just gonna be me and Mac now. That's
okay,
it.
bye guys.
So, how's
Have
it
a good
going?
one.
Oh, y monster.
Well, happy Tuesday to everybody in the chat. Nah, it's all good. We got to have some laughs around here with everything going on, right? That's it. So, guys, thank you. If you guys are new to the channel, we do Under the Ropes is all about, we're interviewing everybody in the independent world, whether it's professional wrestlers, referees, behind the scenes, promoters, everything that we can do. So we want to get up and close and personal with everybody. So you might not be familiar, but we're gonna find out today a little bit more about the monster Steve Mack. So you ready to do this?
Yes, ma'am. I got to tell you, it's kind of funny. You listed that bunch of people. I've literally done everything from promoting, wrestling, announcing, commentating, refereeing, booking, you name it, I've done it. I mean, that happens when you've been around for 23 years. So, you know, there's nothing I'm not ready for.
Awesome. Okay.
Well then, there you go.
Let's get this party started. So for people that don't know you, how did you become a professional wrestler?
So, I grew up in Bay Ridge, Brooklyn. Really, I was all over Brooklyn, though. I had family in Bed-Stuy, Coney Island, and I was all over the place. And between my grandfather and my uncle, they got me into wrestling. And I remember seeing at my grandfather's house Colonel De Beers beat up Jimmy Superfly Snuka and leave him bloody, and I was just like, oh wow, this is awesome. And then my uncle introduced me to Hulkamania and Macho Man Randy Savage, and my cousin and I, we grew up. We lived a few blocks away from each other, and I would go on the weekends to his house and we'd just watch wrestling. And it's crazy because, I mean, my aunt, his mother, would go to work and leave us in the house alone, and we'd beat the crap out of each other. And like the neighbors downstairs would call and complain.
Oh.
She'd come, she'd whip our ass with a belt. And, we would, she would leave, go back to work, and we go right back to wrestling like if nothing happened, Fast forward to high school. The very first time that we ever got into a ring, my cousin, by the way, is low-key, in case you guys don't know, Caval, Senshi, whatever the hell. I mean, he's got a million different names. There was a ring set up at this block party in 96, and I just finished playing football for high school, and he was at my house, and my mom came home. She was like, hey, there's a ring set up on 3rd Avenue. We were like, oh, we ran. Like, I don't even know if I've ever been that fast in my life, you know? And we got there, and bodyguard for hire, who is Mike Cruel's father, was in charge. And somehow we told him that we wrestled, and he believed it. So we were like, is there any way we could get 5 minutes, you know, never taken a bump, never done anything other than just, you know, wrestle in like playgrounds and stuff like that. And he was like, yeah. So we got in the ring. We went home, got dressed. I mean, I wore the cleanest of sweatpants and wife beater t-shirt, you know, and I think he wore the same deal except the cut off sleeves t-shirt. And we got back, we wrestled, and it was a parade. So, I mean, a block party. So like within seconds, there was thousands of people watching us. So we were feeling it. Like we could have been shot and it wouldn't have mattered. We would have kept going. And, at one point, Key goes for the moonsault and he kicks the street light, and it sounded like WrestleMania. Oh! So right there, we were like, oh, that's it. You can't, there's nothing we can top. Just pin me. So we did that, and we were feeling like we were lit, you know. And our boy Lowlife Louie, who I went to high school with, him and Mace Mendoza from the Christopher Street Connection, I had known almost my entire life. And you know, they told us that they were doing backyard wrestling, but inside of a church. There's a ring set up inside of a church, and he was like, you know, we go tape once a month, sometimes twice a month, over in Brooklyn, and we went. And it was February of 1997. And we both were on the M train, the J train. And for anybody that knows anything about Brooklyn and New York, you pass this hospital called Woodhull Hospital. And it is called the Roach Motel because so many people would check in but never check out. I tell my cousin, I was like, wow. If you get hurt, we're not going to that hospital. I know it's like 4 blocks away, but we're not going to that hospital. I'm
literally a block away from it right now.
my grandfather lived on Park Avenue across the projects. You know what I mean? Yeah, I know about that neighborhood. You know what I mean? So if you know St. John's Church, that's where the ring was. That's where we started. It was called IWW, Insane World Wrestling. And it was Lowlife Louie's brainchild. And there was a bunch of us. I mean, SAT was there, but we didn't do much stuff with them on IWW. Red was there, Quiet Storm, Divine, and that's where we met Homicide and Lathon. And Homicide always says that he remembers hearing about me and Key talk about like Malenko, you know, Eddie Guerrero, all the cruiserweights from WCW. We were talking about the New Japan guys, and he was like, I never heard anybody talk, you know, and feel it the same way that I do, you know. And so he took an interest in us, and we were already, me and Key were teaming up. We were the Hit Squad. It was a group of us. We were the Hit Squad. And at the time, Homicide used to team up with this guy named Mike Stone, who passed away, and they were the Hit Squad. We never knew each other, though, you know. And once he saw us wrestling, he took us under his wing, and Lathon did too. Lathon Tower of Torture. Lathon was this big, massive dude, probably about 6'6", 6'7", about 400 pounds, but not fat. Like, he was solid. Like, when he hit you, you knew you got hit, you know. And they just took us under their wing with this other guy named Benji and Ralph. And we used to train. I mean, we'd go all different times of the night. We do our tapings on the weekends and stuff like that. And then eventually we met Bobby Lombardi, and Bobby Lombardi was running a school, and that he was running LIWF, and then that became the Doghouse. And from the first day, the Doghouse, we moved everything into the Doghouse. We set it up. We moved to the next building. We were part of that. And that's pretty much from 97 until 98, the, you know, middle end of 98. It was just all training with Homicide and Lathon. And, you know, that's pretty much, you know, it was by accident, but it was a really cool accident. And everybody that was there was all cool. We were all fam. So it kind of helped it, you know, for us to motivate each other and keep going, because it wasn't easy. And anybody that's trained under Homicide knows it's not easy. So, you know, that's pretty much how it started.
Awesome.
I can't stop from laughing right now just thinking about. I'm literally in that area right now. How crazy!
Homicide lived not too far from there. He was first he was in Marcy Projects, and then he was, I think it was Tompkins, but I don't remember exactly. But he was all over that. You know what I mean? Like, we went to his school one time when he was with TNA, and then we filmed something at his high school, and they had like this caged-in fence area, and he was like, "Yo, we used to have cage matches in there." I was like, I would not want to be locked in a cage with Homicide. I don't care what anybody says. And that's my best friend.
Oh, man. Okay. Let's keep it going. Okay, so from the early days of Jersey All Pro and USA Pro Wrestling to now, can you tell us a little bit of your thoughts on what the tri-state indie wrestling scene has become?
So I'm going to start at the beginning. For Jersey especially, there was a group of guys, and Homicide's talked about it. I've talked about it. Key, Moff, all four of us have talked about it, and other guys too. But there was a group of guys who had trained at different areas, parts of North Jersey and parts of South Jersey. And they looked at Jersey All Pro Wrestling as like bottom rate. That was a place where all the trash went. And it was unfortunate that they thought that way, because it set a fire under Fat Frank's, the guy who ran Jersey All Pro, Fat Frank Iadavia. It set a fire under him to want to shut them up. And we started noticing, as you know, like 99 starts rolling around, 2000, that we're trying to work in all these different places. And the same group of guys are there and kind of telling promoters not to use us. So what we did then was we made everybody come to Jersey All Pro. Jersey All Pro used to be this little rinky-dink. It used to be like I think it was a A&P or a Key Food, and it became a bingo hall, like legit. And we turned it into the place to be on Friday nights in Bayonne, New Jersey. And we went from like the first show there, probably about 150. We were packing in 500 at its peak.
Oh, wow.
In a little venue. And it was tight. I mean, and then there was guys, I mean, all different kinds of guys were there. Guys like Eddie Kingston, former women's wrestler Alicia. Like, there was a whole bunch of other people that now are names, you know, whether on TV or in the indies. They were all coming to that charity hall to watch JAP and what the four of us were doing. Because, you know, in all fairness, we were the guys that sparked something. Homicide started, and, you know, him and Key were doing some great stuff. Then me and Moff started teaming up, and it got to the point where me and Moff had changed things so much that people were putting tag teams in the main event, which they never did. It was always a singles, and it was always like a TV name against a local guy. But we made it where the tag team was what was the main event, and it wasn't against names, it was against other local guys. And like, you know, it was I don't want to say lazy, but it wasn't as, they weren't as hardworking, and they weren't as motivated to become something. Usually guys on the indies were guys who got a shot at TV and weren't that great, or the guys coming up who really didn't know much. And we didn't know much either. I'm not saying that we were geniuses or anything, but the four of us always stuck together. We brought other guys along with us, like Dixie, Dragon, Derange, Ghost Shadow. You know, all those guys that were with us in JAP, Christopher Street Connection, Lathan, Jay Lover, like all those guys that we were cool with. When any one of us made it somewhere, we made sure that the rest of the guys were right behind. And we always tried to show people a different show than what everybody else was giving them. And at that point, we started watching a lot of All Japan. We were already watching New Japan, but when we started watching All Japan, and I'll give Key the blame for that one because he started watching it before all of us. But once we started training like them and doing what they were doing, everything just changed. It just exploded. And it wasn't about head drops. It really was, you know, more physical, competitive nonsense. But every once in a while, you know, you try to sneak some stuff in. And like, I can remember the first time me and Key main evented for Jersey All Pro in a singles match. Everything was hot and heavy. We're about to kill each other. And I look at him and I pull the Tito Santana, Shawn Michaels, you got a boogie in your nose. And Key was like, damn it. And like, I don't know how I didn't break, but he like, you know, and, but you gotta keep it loose like that. Everyone, you know, because in this business, it's very easy to fall in where you start believing your own hype and, you know, it's not fun anymore. So we always kept to try to keep it loose. We were always trying to have fun, but at the same time, we were trying to give everybody a better show. And once we came on the scene, then places like USA Pro, Jack Sabbath's, UCW, ICW, I mean, it got to a point at Jack Sabbath's first show, we wrestled, it was the Hit Squad against the Boogie Knights and the Natural Born Sinners, Boogaloo and Damian Dragon. And a couple of months earlier, there was an incident at another show where Homicide had gotten arrested after a riot had broken out because of some of the guys that were friends with Boogie Knights started the riot. And Homicide is the only one that got arrested. We were like, what the hell? You know?
God.
So we finally get a chance to get in there with the Boogie Knights. And it was a tables match. And we were just doing our thing. And at the end of the match, Frank Goodman, because they were using his license, Frank Goodman comes up to me and he's like, you guys are in big trouble. Stick around. You beat the crap out of those kids. Me and Moff looked at each other like, no, we didn't. You know, we had a match. You know, that's how we work. All of a sudden, Big Dick Dudley comes out. And Big Dick Dudley gets in the ring. And he's like, you know, you guys think you're so big and bad. Why don't you take on somebody big and bad? And I'll show you what a real fight is. So I'm looking at Moff, and Moff's looking at me. I'm like, bro, is this really happening right now? All right, Moff, if we're going to get in the ring, this is what we're going to do. Moff, stay on his knee, and I'll stay on the other knee. And he was like, yeah? I was like, yeah, this dude's had surgery on his knee like 12 times. He's garbage. Well, we were ready to literally break both of his legs. We probably would have gotten killed because I can say this now that he's gone. He was a mafia hitman.
Oh, my.
And we did not know this at the time. But had we known, we would have scurried our way back to that. And sorry, Mr. Big Dick. But we were ready. And then Frank Goodman saw that the guys were okay. So he was like, no, just go to the back, go to the back, go to the back. So we go to the back. And, you know, Frank Goodman's like, oh, you know, you guys really messed them up. You beat them up. Boogaloo and Damian Dragon come through first. Oh, man, that was the greatest match ever. Thank you so much. Oh, thank you. And then comes the Boogie Knights. Same thing. Oh, thank you so much. Blah, blah, blah. And Big Dick and Frank Goodman look like, and I'm going to say it, a bunch of marks because they fell for the hype. You know what I mean? But that was the difference. There was an intensity. It felt like a real fight. It looked like a real fight. Every once in a while, you know, some punches were thrown. But, you know, for the most part, we wanted everybody to look better than what they were. And we knew that if we did that, then we were going to be getting some love too, you know? So
yeah,
stuff like that. You got to do what you got to do. But, you know, that's how it was back then.
Juan in the chat says, I miss Jersey All Pro. And Danny DeMonto said, Lighthouse tonight.
It is what it is.
Okay, so to the people again that don't know you, what kind of style of wrestling best suits you?
So in my earlier days, definitely more strong style. In my older days, more smart brawling. I'm not going to do drop kicks, and I'm not going to do stuff. I mean, I have hit drop kicks. I think I put it up on my Twitter the other day. I hit a drop kick in my first match in Japan. And I was like, oh, look at that, you know? As I get older, I'm trying to get the game in the ring where it's a better storytelling match. And I want the crowd to be able to understand why I'm doing what I'm doing in the match. And but at the same time, I still like to be physical. I like to play with, you know, a door, or a chair, or a ladder, or something fun. I think every once in a while I'll pull out a surprise. The last time I wrestled at House of Glory was me and Moff against... Oh, no, I'm sorry. One of the last times that I wrestled at House of Glory was me and Moff against Private Party. And at the time, Private Party, they were used to wrestling the guys that they were used to wrestling, which is the other students, you know. And it was one of the first times that they wrestled someone that they didn't know like that. And everybody, I mean, people told us that night straight up, we thought it was just a hit squad living off of their name. And we put in work, and we stole the show that night, you know, and Private Party thanked us, and we enjoyed working them so much that, you know, other companies, we were like, oh, bring Private Party in so we could wrestle with them and we'll put on a great show. And we did that a bunch of times with them. And, you know, I like every once in a while just showing that flash. Like once a year, I'll bring him out. He'll come. I always say he comes from Japan. Monsta Mack comes back from Japan, and, you know, he showed up and then goes back to Japan. And then the rest of the time you get Steve Mack. But what you call, you know, it's a fun match that I want people to be like, if there's one thing that they see, I want them to be like, yo, I saw this big dude hit this. I don't know what the hell he hit. You got to watch. We got to see it next month when they're back. And I always try to do that every match now.
Awesome.
It's awesome to hear. So like we asked earlier, we talked about evolution just in wrestling itself. Can you talk us through a little bit of your evolution as one of the vets in the business now, like going from where you started till now? How have you gotten to this persona that you are now?
When I started, I was a street thug. I wore camouflage. I mean, the gimmick really was that me and Moff looked a lot alike. That, I mean, there's some videos when, because the camera's so far away, you can't really tell who's who, you know, and that's what we got away with for a long time. And then we started to show them that we could hang in there with the best. And, you know, by the way, I'm getting texts right now. My friend Guapo is saying that Tiffany is hot.
Oh, God.
And that I look mad skinny. Thank you, Guapo. You're a great friend.
Thank you.
But, you know, I was always the trash talker. Because at the beginning, you know, I was showing Moff a lot of things. Moff had been around wrestling longer than me because his father was around the business. But he never actually was, you know, training hard like that to be a wrestler until he came to JAP and they put us together. And, you know, he tells it all the time, and it's true. I didn't want to team up with him. I didn't want to be a part of a tag team because I had to reset. And I was fortunate enough, and, you know, no matter what's said or, you know, what time passes, I'll always consider myself fortunate enough that I had a partner like Moff, because I showed him, he listened well, he took everything that I said and excelled with it. And we became, you know, one of the most famous acts in wrestling around the world at a time where there was no YouTube, there was no Facebook, there wasn't even MySpace back then, you know what I mean? And we became super duper famous to where, like, I would walk around Great Adventure and I don't know how the hell they knew me, but people would be, yo, Hit Squad, what's up? My girl at the time, she would get sick of it. She hated it. She's like, why can't we just go anywhere and not be known? You know, I don't know. But, you know, as time went on, though, I took more of that leader role. And, you know, especially with JAP, guys like Arcadia, guys like Bandito Jr., you know, and other tag teams, like I said, Private Party, EYFBO. You know, I always wanted to show them what I knew, because when I was coming up, outside of Homicide and Manny Fernandez and Mikey Whipwreck and Magic, the veterans really didn't want to talk to the younger guys. They didn't want to show them much. And it was really cool that the guys that we learned from were guys that meant something to us. And I always felt like no matter what level I reach, if I could help somebody, then I will, and I'll teach that lesson to them. So I always became, you know, I started becoming the mentor role probably around the 10-year, 15-year mark of my career. And I've been in that role since. So as far as like my character in ring, I try to go all out. I mean, if you've seen me in BWF in the Bronx, I mean, I try to get them to jump the barricade. You know, I want to be the bad guy that everybody's like, oh, you're such a dick. You know what I mean? But, and I think that's happened a couple of times, you know, especially with my Kobe line. But, you know, I'm always trying to get people to react differently than what they do at shows. And, you know, like while everybody's working on moves, I'm working on just trying to have the most memorable match of the night. You know, so that's where, you know, like before when I was younger, I had a chip on my shoulder, so I tried to steal the show. And then I tried to do super fat ninja moves where I was doing ranas and moonsaults and stuff like that. And, you know, but now it's more, like I said, just have a match where people are like, man, that was really awesome, that match. You know what I mean? Sometimes my body is willing, and sometimes it's like, nah, Steve, you need to just rest. You're too old for this nonsense.
Oh man, Danny D'Amato said in the chat, my favorite tag team growing up is the Hit Squad, and then he said he won't put me over.
I put D'Amato over. He needs to stop. I put him. You know, Danny D'Amato should not talk because I put him in the best of the light heavyweights, and that was because he lost so much weight. I was like, you know what? It was my idea. I was like, let's surprise everybody. Put D'Amato in the best of light heavyweights, and sure enough, you know, he was in it. So he can never say I didn't put him over. I said he looked great. That's all.
Oh man. So
I'm sure he could come back to it too. That's a funny.
I'm sure he will. I'll tell you what he does. So tell the fans like some of the promotions that you've worked for.
So locally, Jersey All Pro, which is no longer in existence. GCW. I was a part of GCW from pretty much day one when it was JCW, Jersey Championship Wrestling, back in the 90s. God, I sound so old when I say stuff like that.
Don't say that because I'm not too far behind you. Shh! Don't say things like that.
There was USA Pro, Frank Goodman's USA Pro, which honestly, you know, this is some of my best memories because I got to work with some of the biggest names ever through Frank Goodman. I'll always be grateful for all the stuff Frank Goodman did for me and Moff, and you know the rest of my crew. There was ICW. I mean that we started day one when it was UCW. Then there was Ring of Honor, which we were the very first act to appear with the Christopher Street. I always catch a little heat because I go a little too hard. I always say we're the first match, and people are like, "But it was a run-in." But there was a referee who counted 3 and the bell rang, so it's the first match ever in Ring of Honor history. But you know, I mean, if they want to say Red and what's his name, Briscoe, is the first match, whatever. We know who really was. Let me see. I wrestled in Japan for Big Japan. I wrestled in Puerto Rico for IWA Puerto Rico. I also showed up once at the New Japan Dojo in LA. And then recently I worked for the WWE. I didn't wrestle, but I got to do some backstage stuff with No Way Jose. And I mean, I did Baron Corbin's entrance, the very first sedan entrance where my shoulder I thought was going to fall out of my shoulder because the bar was heavy as hell and thick. And even though they had padding, there was a bolt sticking out and it was going right into my shoulder the whole time. That's why if you watch it, I like everybody squats down. I'm like, nah, son, I got to get off this. It was hurting. I've done a whole bunch of, I mean, every major company for the last 20 years that's independent, I've done work with. I did some work with Impact Wrestling, but not matches, just as an extra. And I've been all over the place. The only place I haven't been to is Europe. And I definitely want to do something there if possible. If it doesn't happen, it doesn't happen. But it's someplace that, you know, I know from going back to the early 2000s, mid 2000s, there was wrestling, 24-hour wrestling channel. And they were showing old Jersey All Pro and USA Pro. And when I was nobody, I started my downward slide and I wasn't as popular anymore. And all those European fans were hitting me up and telling me how great things were, that, you know, what they were seeing. And they lifted me up. And I'm forever grateful for that. And, for me, the last big place where like I really did great work was Beyond Wrestling. I wrestled for House of Glory and we had a great match, but it was, you know, once, twice. I only wrestled a handful of times for House of Glory. And I think if I would have had more of an opportunity to wrestle there, probably would have done big things there. But Beyond Wrestling, between EYFBO, LAX, Santana Ortiz, I mean, those guys, we did some incredible stuff. I got to wrestle Gargano and Ciampa there. I got to wrestle the Vikings there, all kinds of great stuff came through because of Beyond. And, I'll always be grateful for Chris Dickinson because he's the one that me and Moff, we weren't talking at the time, and he got us together, and it was supposed to be a one-off. And next thing you know, I mean, it went nuts. And, Beyond kept bringing us back, and we had a great run. It was, a 2.5-year run for Beyond. And that's probably the last great thing. Although right now, BWF, I'm kind of surprising myself with what we're doing there. And I was just talking to the guys in charge there, and I have a lot of great plans that I would like to do. And as long as my body's holding up, I'm all for it. So, see what happens. And Combat Zone Wrestling. How can I figure Combat Zone Wrestling? I was just tag team champion there not too long.
Oh man, I'm excited. I can't wait till wrestling comes back full time because I miss seeing everybody. So, and I just saw you at BWF too. So,
what's funny is I remember, I think the last time we saw each other at House of Glory was WrestleMania Weekend, and we were sweating up a nasty storm. Do you remember that?
That wasn't the last time I saw you. Last time I saw you was BWF.
No, not the last time that I saw you, but the last time I saw you at House of Glory.
Oh, yes. So, I mean, I'm all over the place.
I just remember dying of sweat in that building. And it used to be Amazon. What's it now? New York something?
The NYC Arena. Arena.
I always forget. I never remember any. One time, a long time ago, Frank Goodman ran in that building. And it was me and I forgot who my partner was against Bison Bravado and Slugger. And Slugger threw me into the wall by the bar. And there were for like years, there was an imprint. Actually, no, it was a reversal. And I threw Slugger into the wall. His imprint of his body. It looked like Scooby-Doo because it was like a perfect outline of his body against the wall. And they didn't fix it for a long time.
Oh, man.
Oh, man.
Oh, jeez.
Yeah, I've been around. I mean, there's a lot of times where you do a show and you're not expecting anything. And those are like the greatest moments, because you're not expecting much.
Right.
And then there's times where you wrestle for somebody big and you're like, oh my God. And it's a letdown. And it's like, it works out sometimes like that. But then, you get those like Ring of Honor. Working for Ring of Honor, we never doubted for a second that Ring of Honor was going to be huge. We always knew it was going to be something big. And, it just, every time we put so much pressure on ourselves and we always came through, people might not love us. They might hate us. I don't care what you say. I know me and Moff, when we went out there, we went 1,000%. It didn't matter what. I wrestled with a broken foot for Ring of Honor. Oof. Nobody, the guys knew, but like, that was it. You know what I mean? And, you did what you had to do. And, I love being in those situations like that. I just wish, like, if I could turn back like 10 years, right, where I'm smarter or whatever, and my body could hang, there'd be no way that I wouldn't be wrestling for All Elite Wrestling or something like that. You know what I mean? Because I would just go nuts. I wouldn't care.
Oh man, it's let's keep it going though. So this one's a deep question here. So can you tell us a little bit about your relationship with the legendary Fat Frank?
So Homicide had told us, when I met Homicide, it was September of 97, and it was a Saturday morning. And the only reason why I remember that is because when I met Homicide, I saw this dude walking in with Timbs, and they were steel-toed Timbs. And I looked, and he's got fresh blood all over them, like from hours before. And I'm like, yo, you got some blood on your boots, right? And he's like, yeah, I know. Last night, I wrestled for Jersey All-Pro, and I kicked this dude. He hit me, so I kicked him with my boots, and he bled on my boots. I was like, but this is pro wrestling, right? Well, sometimes if some motherfucker hits you, you got to hit him back. his words exact. So if you're mad at me for cursing, my bad.
No, you're good.
There's no way that you could do a homicide without saying a mofo or something. You know what I mean? So I was like, oh, okay. What was the name of this place? And he was like, it's Jersey All Pro Wrestling, yo. And I was like, oh, okay. So then fast forward a couple of months, he takes us to JAP, and the first guy I meet is Fat Frank. And Fat Frank was this Italian dude. He was a pro wrestler. His name was Lou Diamond. So every time I hear Wu Gambino say, Lou Diamonds, I always think of Fat Frank because he used to say it like that. And he was like just chubby Italian dude, crazy hair. And he loved wrestling. So like we hit it off right away. But like he would do like the most wackiest nonsense. I like, there's a lot of stories. I'm trying to think of a good, clean one that you're not horrified and you never, because like some of the craziest nonsense he did is what made us laugh the hardest, So like, but if you really thought about it, you'd be like, I think that dude wasn't right in the head. And you'd probably be right, but all right. So I'm going to tell a girl story. And I apologize now if anybody gets really grossed out, and they never want to listen to this. But I remember one time Fat Frank said that his stomach was bothering him. And we were in a hotel in Philly. Fat Frank goes to the pool, comes back out. And he came out because he ended up soiling himself. He was like, oh, I just shit my pants. I got to go to my shorts. So he goes up. We go up in the elevator. Now, mind you, he's got a full set of shorts loaded with crap in them. And he's like, watch this. We got out the elevator. And, on the corners of the walls, they have that plastic strip. So Frank drops his shorts, spreads his cheeks, and slaps him on that plastic strip. It's like, yeah, better than toilet paper.
Oh, my God.
So I will not say the name of the person, but there was a person who 5 minutes later was walking down the hallway.
Oh my God.
Wearing a bright new white satin jacket.
Oh no.
For watching, because we know the car crash that's about to happen. And their sleeve gets all covered in brown. And Frank, yeah.
Oh my God.
And no, Frank was to absolutely love him. He was a maniac, like legit. And I see a lot in his son, Jake Cage, of him. And, Jake, if Jake gets really serious about this, the way he did about football, I don't see any reason why Jake can't end up in WWE or someplace bigger, like that. Because he has it in him. He has the genetics that his dad didn't have. He's got the height, the size, the strength. His dad had the heart. And I think if Jake has the heart, I think it'll take him a long way. I'm also being reminded by my friend Guapo. I don't want to tell the story because it was really it's a horrible story. But it ends with us running out of the same hotel. It's me, Homicide Key, Guapo, and Boogaloo and Lowrider. And we're being chased out by some females who may or may not have had their clothes taken from their room.
Oh, God.
So we're running out, and for some reason, the parking lot, the fence was closed. We couldn't get out the parking lot. So this is like about an 8-foot fence, from what I'm told, because I only remember bits and pieces. I don't remember everything. But the term Super Fat Ninja was born when we saw the fence, and they tell me it was like Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon, where I jumped and 1 foot on the fence, other foot on the top of the fence, and over the top. And I spoke to Key about this a few months ago, and he's like, yeah, you don't remember that? And I was like, no. He was like, yeah, it was the most graceful thing I ever seen you do. So, Guapo, that was for you.
Oh, man.
Yeah, there's a lot of stories, especially with Frank, because Frank was always the life of the party. And again, he was somebody who wanted the guys who no one believed in, that no one wanted to give a chance to. He gave us all a chance. I mean, Homicide, Homicide everybody loves, but realistically, Homicide's toughest opponent is English. And I'm not saying that to be dick, but it's true. His promos, it took him a while for him to get his promos down. Frank didn't care. Frank gave him a shot. Frank loved him. Someone like me, I've never been a bodybuilder, just been a big, thick boy. And I know that sounds kind of funny. He gave me a shot. Low-key, everybody thought Low-key at the beginning was really skinny and overrated and thought too high of himself. And, he gave Key the ball. And he did that with a lot of guys, Lil Dixie, Insane Dragon, all those guys, Magic. He always remembered who was there for him and when he needed people and who wasn't. And he always felt like he had to give those guys a shot. And if it wasn't for him, a lot of guys in wrestling wouldn't be around, right. And look at how many names came through Jersey All Pro that are now on TV, and there's a lot. So, it's all because of Fat Frank. So when you ask me about Fat Frank, there's a lot of things that come into my mind, but I'll always be grateful that I got to know the guy, even if it was only for a few years, because of him, he changed wrestling. And Bobby Lombardi too. Bobby Lombardi was another guy that was of the same mold as Frank. And, Bobby, his reasons were he wanted to keep guys off the streets from doing drugs and being part of gangs. Felt like wrestling was the way to go. And, he helped us all. Both of them helped us all. So I'm very lucky and fortunate and grateful to have guys like that,
Awesome.
On me.
So what's the best advice another wrestler's given you?
Be yourself. Because anybody could be any character. And, unless somebody has something specific, nothing is, to the letter, perfect. But when you're yourself, look at Stone Cold. He says it all the time. Stone Cold was himself to 11, and that's what worked for him. I loved him as Stunning Steve, Ringmaster, not so much. But when he became Stone Cold, the whole business changed. And, unless it's something like, and there's not a lot of guys who have something like this, maybe a Danhausen or Sting, guys that could be a character and be really awesome at it. Mm-hmm. But there's not a lot of guys like that now. And it's a different game because a lot of guys are more athletic. A lot of guys are pure wrestlers or pure athletes. And they get into this and, when it comes time to do a character, Yep. You got it, Jim. You know what I mean? Like, yeah. Very bland. And for a while, there was a couple of companies that they were using the same type of guys. It was all MMA guys. And yeah, they were blasting each other in the face, and that was cool to watch. But outside of that, what more did you bring? And in this, the whole goal is to get people to watch. And if you can entertain, then you're doing the best job possible. You don't have to be perfect wrestling. There's no such thing as perfect. Dude, one of my favorite people is Rockshaw 337. If you know who Rockshaw 337 is, Rockshaw will never be, confused for the best wrestler in the world. But he's entertaining as hell, and he believes in himself. Doesn't matter if you like him, if you like his style or anything. I have sat through a Rockshaw match, and I was thoroughly entertained. And, that just speaks to him. He believes in himself. If you believe in yourself and you can act out in the ring as yourself, but loud, you don't ever have to learn how to wrestle like a Dean Malenko or an Eddie Guerrero. Just be entertaining and you're good enough. You're gold. You know what I mean?
Yeah. That's great advice.
Words of wisdom right there, folks. Take notes.
Look at Matt Riddle. Matt Riddle. Who's Matt Riddle? Matt Riddle's pothead who just likes to be chill. I've hung out with the guy. I'm cool with him. You know what I mean? Like, I know what he's like. What you see is him. Do I wish I could look like Matt Riddle? Of course. If I could take some pills and look like that, forget it. I'd never have clothes on ever. I'd always be naked. At the same time, it's not his body his body's impressive as hell, but it's his character.
Yeah.
You want to be boys with him. You know what I mean? Like, it's like when I watch Action Bronson and his boys on, F That's Delicious. I want to hang out with all those dudes. Those are my kind of people,
Mm-hmm.
you know, and it comes through the TV. So, you know, in that aspect, that's the same thing. What that person gave me that advice. That's what they meant. You know, just be yourself and people will be attracted to what they see.
Yeah,
So.
absolutely. So I have a fan tweet here from our girl, Brooklyn Wolf of Makeup. She
Okay.
said, do you have a list of workers that you still want to wrestle?
Of course, there's always going to be a list. Honestly, there's 2 tag teams that I wish me and Moff could have wrestled. And we had the chance one time, actually, Danny DeMonto, who I'm putting over, set it up, and it just didn't come through. It was supposed to be the Hit Squad versus the Dudleys.
Oh.
I think had we done that match, it would be easier for both me and Moff to just be like, we're either going to dedicate this and go to TV, or we could just retire right here because it's no way to beat this. And I think that would have been an insane match. The other match is the Young Bucks against me and Moff. And we tried at Beyond a couple of times, but scheduling came up, and then they signed exclusive contracts, and that was it. You know, if I could get someone like one of my other favorite partners, Kyle the Beast, KTB, if I could team up with him against the Briscoes now, that would be awesome. There's a part of me that will always want to wrestle Mike and Angel, Santana and Ortiz, because those are my best matches. Outside of that, it's one of those deals where if it happens, it'd be great. But outside of that, you know, I'm not. Yeah, I always wanted to wrestle Keith Lee. I thought from the day that I saw Keith Lee and Dijak the very first time at Beyond Wrestling, and it was me and Homicide and Moff, the 3 of us with our jaws absolutely dropped watching Keith Lee wrestle Dijak. Both those guys were incredible. I got to be in the ring with both of them, but I mean, one-on-one, you know. I've been very fortunate to say that most of the guys who are somebody now I shared some ring time with. And so there's not too many regrets, but the Dudleys and the Young Bucks are the 2 biggest for me. Singles, I really don't have, because I've never been singles minded. I've always, part of the evolution of Steve Mack is as I've gotten older, it's always been about tag team and building up and sharing the ring with other guys. And maybe that contributed to my longevity because I'm not in there the entire match and I get to take a rest and, you know, do smart things. And so like it kind of helped me lasting a little bit longer, but I'm more focused on the team mentality. I always have. I mean, I've won something like 85 different titles in 23 years. And out of those 85, I think 78 were tag titles with like 10 different partners. You know what I mean? So like, it's always been about tag team wrestling. It's not about me being the star. I get yelled at by, you know, Homicide and my girl and a whole bunch of people. Oh, you need to be more selfish. You need to be more about you. And I just never been that way. I've always been about the team. But that's just me. And if it didn't get me to certain places, then so be it. But I got to go to a lot of cool ass places. I ain't gonna front. You know what I mean? Yeah. So I meet a lot of cool people and fight them. So
cool.
It's awesome to hear. So this one's, again, knowing you for the years I've known you, I know you love video games, arcade games, that love just for that kind of stuff. For the viewers at home that may not be as familiar, can you explain that passion there for them a little bit?
I'm going to mess this up just a little bit. You guys earlier, but I had my phone sitting on my Street Fighter tab table
cool.
arcade. Right now I have Final Fight on, but growing up, I always loved video games. I go back to the Atari 2600. Even before that, ColecoVision, television, Pong. Anytime I went to the arcades in Coney Island, I was always, just on there. And as I grew up, the 2 things that remained constant were video games and wrestling. So, as a matter of fact, I have a very depressing story to tell you guys. And I'm sure my mother will love that I'm going to tell this story to the world. I mean, I've told it before, but, I have a feeling you guys have a larger audience than what I've spoken to. When I was about 8 or 9, I had a Sega Master System, and I had written Sega a letter about a video game. And the concept was driving home during rush hour, right? Yeah. And it would have been a top-down, simple game, but, lots of cars on the road and stuff like that. And they actually sent me back a letter about a month later offering me some money for my idea. And I think I always say it was for $1 million, but it wasn't $1 million. It was like $500,000, something like that, right? And I showed my mom. My mom was like, "Oh, wow, that's really cool." Now, mind you, I don't remember typing this letter out, so I'm pretty sure it might have even been written out in crayon. Who knows? But I mean, like I said, I was like 8 or 9. So my mom goes, "Why don't we do this? School's almost over. I think there's like a month left of school. It was like May, and so school's almost over. When school's over, we'll go back to this letter and we'll answer them, whatever. I'll just put it over here." Like, okay, cool. That sounds like a good idea. Last day of school. "Ma, where's the letter?" "What letter?" "Come on, Ma, you know the letter." "It should be by the TV. I think I left it." "Okay." I go look. I mean, I tore that TV area up. Couldn't find no letter.
Oh, no.
"Ma, I don't find it." "You sure?" "I know it's there. I put it there. Let me look." Maybe about 20 minutes later, she comes into my room. "Son, I have to tell you something."
Oh, no.
"What?" "I think I threw out the letter."
Oh, no. Oh, no.
I said, "Are you kidding me?" Like, considering I was like a kid, I was as calm as I could be. Are you for real? Are you kidding me?" And she was like, "I'm sorry. I think I threw it out. I was cleaning and I accidentally threw it out thinking it was something else."
Oh, no.
So to this day, I'm 41 years old now. I just turned 41 this month. Every time I talk to my mom and we start talking about video games, I remind her of the little mistake she made with my almost $500 million Sega console.
Oh, no. I'm
So,
sorry.
I mean, every once in a while, I'll get Homicide or my cousin. They'll be like, "How come you don't do nothing with video games?" I'm like, my heart just...
Oh, no.
But recently I did start, I signed up for some classes on how to, build your own game for like mobile devices and stuff like that. So I always tell all of Team Pazuzu, if I ever make a video game, they're going to be my villains.
Yes.
It's just, it's something that's always going to be in me. Street Fighter is always going to be my favorite game, no matter what. I love racing games. I just posted a picture on my Instagram. It's private, so I'm not going to tell you guys what it is, but it's my daughter playing a racing game. And she's playing, what is it? Horizon Turbo. I always forget the name of it. But she's playing it, and it reminds me of me as a kid, It's just cool things like that. She plays pole position, and when I was a kid, that was my favorite game in the arcade, and I see a lot of me and her, and the video game love is there. She started playing Animal Crossing. I have no idea what the hell she's talking about. She's like, the Nooks are bad guys. I'm like, oh, okay, that's great.
Oh, man.
If you're 6, step up, bitch.
Oh, man.
Plays my heart. At one point, I had something over like 5,000 video games.
Oh, my.
Yeah, I sold most of it off. I kept like my Dreamcast. I stupidly gave up all my Sega Saturn collection, and that hurt. Like, I didn't realize it would be like that big when I sold it, but I sold it, and it to this day, I mean, I have another Sega Saturn, but it hurts my heart when I think about letting that go.
Oh.
I had almost every system you could think of, and I have like hard drives filled with, 100,000 games. I had another hard drive filled with 150,000 games. And this table that, I just showed you guys, I'm going to mod it and put a computer in it just so I could have all my games. I have everything up to like PS2 games on my hard drive. So, I'm going to set it up, and, this will be my baby, my mod baby.
Oh man, that's
Sweet.
amazing.
Ray's
Do you
got
still
the
play anything like currently now, like modern, like PS4, Xbox?
I have a PS4. I refuse to get into the Xbox One because honestly, I feel like within a year you can get an Xbox One X for like $150. You know what I mean? Like, so I'm not gonna jump into it. But I started out a Sega guy, and I've converted into a PlayStation guy, Sony guy, and I definitely will be picking up the PS5 when it comes out sometime during year one, especially if all the things that I'm hearing about it, I'm very interested. All the backwards compatibility, the solid state drives and stuff like that. That stuff is all cool to me. I have PSVR. That's easily one of the best things. If you've never played with PSVR, you need to do it. I have a feeling Tiffany would be viral if we were in a.
Oh God.
Wait, it's not. If someone had a gaming channel. Oh wait, I do. Yeah, we might have to work on that later.
All right. We'll do it. We'll do it on. We'll do it on. We'll do it on Ray's channel.
But I Grand Theft Auto. I just got the Streets of Rage 4, and I've been stuck on that a little bit. But see, that kind of doesn't count as modern to me because it's just shouting out the past, and being a Sega Genesis guy, who had a Sega CD and a 32X and a Nomad and a Sega CDX and, Sega Saturn and Dreamcast and Sega Master System and Game Gear. It's like, all right, this is a throwback shout out, you know what I mean, to all those days. And it's a really great game. I just saw some new game for the Switch. I have a Switch, by the way, coming. And I just saw another game that's supposed to be coming out soon that looks like Final Fight or Streets of Rage. It actually looks really awesome. So I'm, going to check that out. But the Switch, I leave more to my daughter. Like I said, she plays Animal Crossing. She likes Mario Kart. So, stuff like that is really for us. That's when we play with it together.
That's fun.
Yeah, it's cool. Like I said, I try to let her discover what she likes. Yeah. Because, growing up, I didn't have anybody telling me. I just did whatever. I can remember the excitement when being a Sega guy, when Street Fighter was finally announced for the Sega Genesis, because up until that point, it was only for Super Nintendo. And I used to subscribe to Sega Visions, which is Sega's magazine. And I open up the mail, it's Saturday. I open up the mail and I see Street Fighter. It's Guile and Bison on the cover. And I was like, oh! I was such an idiot geeking out. You know what I mean? And I was like, oh, you know what? I just found I gotta get ready. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna put up a sign. I'm gonna have, do you want to learn how to play video games? Ring apartment 2B. You know what I mean? Like, that was my deal. Nobody.
Oh my goodness.
Oh
jeez.
I was trying to be an entrepreneur,
Yeah. Oh man. So what have you been doing during the quarantine?
So I still work. I have a regular 9 to 5. I'm an essential employee, but I'm not doing anything heroic. So, but I still go to work. To be honest, this week is the first time that I thought about getting back into the ring. Now that people are starting to do more stuff, just to shake the rust off and, get back into the feeling of bumping and hitting the ropes and stuff like that. And I mean, the last show I did was, ironically enough, WWE back on March 2nd. Oh, no, I'm sorry, BWF. March 7th was the last show. But that week, those are the last 2 shows I did. And, we're going on 3 months now. So, it's been a hot minute. And the longest I had ever taken off was a month. And, it's really one of those things where, you really, now that I'm older, you really got to make sure that you're ready to get back in. Because if you're not, then let the younger guys do it. But I still have some gas left in the tank. There's still a lot of things that I want to do. Like I said, I was talking to the guys from BWF, have some ideas that I want to put out there. And, ultimately, there's, just have fun while I'm out there. But in order to have fun, I got to be able to know that I can perform at the level that I'm used to. You know? And outside of that, spend as much time with my daughter as possible. And just now that it's getting warmer, enjoy the outside, because when you're inside all the time, I mean, you guys know, you guys have been quarantined too. It's been a lot of fun.
I'm done. I'm ready. Let's go.
Everybody in my neighborhood is walking out here like there ain't nothing going on in the world. They no mask on. Just, what's a quarantine? I don't know what that is. Yeah.
It's a lot. Oh man. So we have another fan tweet from General Admission Wrestling Productions. They said, "Can you tell us about the infamous wall throwing story?"
So, in Bayonne in Charity Hall, the ring was set up about 6 to 8 feet away from the wall of the building. And so this story is going to evolve into 2 different stories. But when we were at the doghouse, it was kind of like the same setup, but it was a garage door. So it was like that metal fence that moves in. And Moth was the originator. I'll give him the credit. He was the originator. We had a match with the Christopher Street Connection, and Moth threw mace into the fence from the ring. Everybody lost their mind. So maybe like about a month later, it wasn't too much longer. I had decided to do it with Insane Dragon, and it was a hard wooden wall, and you fell straight to the floor if you didn't protect yourself. And he protected himself. He was an athletic kid, so the next time I did it, it was a bigger show. I want to say it was might have been for September 11th, but it might have been something else also. And I had Elax in there. Elax was a little bit thicker, probably weighed about 220, 215 in that area. And I remember throwing him like a dart into the wall, and just the way he bounced off the wall and hit the floor, it was absolute death. And I thought the kid was dead. I was like, oh, well, he's dead. I'm just going to celebrate then. I'll worry about it later. So then it became people were chanting wall. And Moth started leading the chant, and we started throwing people at the same time. And one time, one of the Boogie Nights got hurt, and it was just pure accident. He grabbed on the ropes on the way down, and instead of going out, he went straight down and smacked his head. And that was scary. And that's one of the things in my career that I regret that we did. It happened, unfortunately. And he got injured, and that's something that I'll always have in the back of my head is I wish we didn't do that. But we did it a couple more times. The next big time that I did, actually, before we get to that, we were wrestling Magic and Suba. It was me and Moff against Magic and Suba, the Shaolin Wrecking Crew. And me and Magic are out there brawling, and I throw Magic into the wall. So he's trying to break the wall because it's bending, On the other side of that wall directly was a dollar store. So every time he hit the wall, stuff is getting knocked off the shelves. And Frank and Pierre, who's the co-owner of Jersey All Pro, and our manager, Johnny D, they drove by the next day and they saw the owner picking up all the stuff off the floor to put back on the shelves. But Magic hit the wall 5 times. He's like, come on, just keep throwing me. Just keep throwing. He was trying to break the wall. You know what I mean? And it just wouldn't break for whatever reason. But the next famous time that I did it, it was, I want to say it was scary, but at the same time, when you're in there long enough, to look at someone, and if you see that they're moving, all right, they didn't break their neck, you're good, it was one of those moments for me. I hate to sound cold and callous, but because when you do something risky like that, that's the first thing you do. Are they moving? All right, we're good. I was in there with Trent Beretta. Trent Plasma was his name at the time. And we were at Gino Caruso's ECPW gym. And he had a wall. I'm not even exaggerating when I say it was at least 25 feet away from the ring. And for some reason, I was like, I got this. I was a lot more confident in my strength, and I was a lot stronger back then. And I know for a fact that he would have hit the wall. But in the back, I asked him, do you want to do this? Yeah, I got it. Like, he was putting pressure on himself. And even Homicide asked him, he's like, look, you don't have to do this if you don't want to do this. No, we're going to do it. We're going to do it. Dan Barry was his partner. And Dan kind of looked at him like, it's your funeral, kid. Like, and he knew, just, it was one of those things, you're either going to make it or you're not. But, so we get the setup for the press slam. And I told them, I said, do me a favor. When we're by the ropes, you're going to feel my hand go back. And that means I'm going to shoot you. When you feel it go back, push off my shoulders. You push off my shoulders, you're good. We're going to clear this easy. So if you watch the video, as soon as we get by the ropes, I start to pull back. Instead of pushing off my shoulders, he goes, ah! And he Supermans. And if it wasn't because I was strong, he wouldn't have made it. But he made the wall. It's just as he was going towards the wall, he started going at a rapid descent all of a sudden. And there was this bench, and he caught the bench with the side of it. He had a big raspberry, and like he was in the hospital for the night.
Oh no!
I don't know if he stayed, but like he was there just to get checked out. And I called him, and I was making sure he was okay. And I know that he had a lot of hate towards me, but at the same time, it was at that moment that he decided he was never going to let that happen to him again, and he started bulking up. And within a year, he got signed by the WWE. So like, whether he likes it or not, I'm the reason why he got signed by the WWE. Oh. Sounds like a dick move to say.
Hey.
But no, yeah, that was like the big one. Like that one, if you look up JP Wall, like that's usually the first one that comes up. And when we wrestled in Beyond, I wrestled him and Rocky Romero against me and Moff. And, I told him, I was like, listen, if you got something you want to get out, I know what it's like to hold on to something for a long time. It was almost 10 years after the match. I told him, I said, get out of the match. I'm a pro. You show me that you're a pro. You take out, you get what you got to get. And when you get it out, we'll look at each other and we'll go do work. And that's exactly what we did. For the opening of the match, there was a lot of jaw jacking because I was trying to get him fired up. Because at the same time, like, you're going to get hit, but you also know that you can do a little bit hitting. So if I knew I could get a good shot in there, I was going to take my shot. So it's like, but he's got to hit me first, So we get in there and we have a little scrap. And they, Dickinson and Jocko were on commentary and they brought it up. And, Beyond was trying to play it up a little bit too. So it ended up being, it was one of those moments, weird moments in wrestling where people weren't sure what was going on. If it was real, if it was fake, what was the deal? And we did our best to make everyone not be sure of what was going on. And I think it worked because to this day, there's people who were in that crowd and they were like, that was the most intense thing I've ever seen two guys ever do in the ring. So for me, that speaks volumes that I did what I had to do, and he did too. And I mean, we'll be cordial to each other and say what's up. And I can't have any ill will. I threw the kid, you know what I mean? If he has ill will, I told him to get it out then and there. And if he doesn't, that's on him. We've seen each other once or twice and it's always been, hey, what's up? How you doing? And, that's it. So, but that was the big, that was probably the most famous throw of all, like I said, because he went to 25 feet from the ring to the wall. Man. It's a pretty insane visual to see someone get launched by another human being that way.
Yeah.
Yeah. I just remember seeing the video and it still just replays in my head, just it's. Hey, we're still talking about it today.
The best part is my boys, Modtron, they're the editors, and, they do a little bit of partying, and they were on the good stuff that day because the way they edit it, it's like a million, it speeds up, slows down, changes colors, upside down, inside out. It is the best. I'm pretty sure it was my boy Mort who edited that video, but they enjoyed it so much. They were the biggest Hit Squad fan, and we ended up being family. So, they always support everything that I do, Mort and Dom, and, when they put out stuff like that, I just feel it even more because it's my boys, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
No, that's awesome. That's awesome. So, okay, let's keep it going. Mm-hmm. So, if there's one person you could face again in a heartbeat, who would it be?
Loki.
Ooh.
Yes. Loki's my first match, and I want Loki to be my last match. If it happens, it happens. If it doesn't, it doesn't. I'm not going to be upset because you take things. I learned that lesson a long time ago. You get what you get, and you don't get upset.
Yeah.
And but low key is somebody that we always push each other, and at the same time, we had different paths. And I knew him since he was a baby. Like I said, we were first cousins. We grew up a few blocks away, went to the same school up till freshman year of high school. And then when he moved, I was at his house every other weekend. His father was like my second father. And, we were brothers. We weren't cousins, And, it was one of those things where we changed so many things around us, whether we knew it or not at the time. But I think as we get older, we've talked about it a few times. We definitely see that we've made a lot of changes in pro wrestling, just the two of us. And if you think that's a bold or egomaniac statement, ask anybody who's worked with us, whether it's taking care of the boys, making sure that people are treated equally, making sure that people are given better quality matches or whatever it is. A lot of it had to do with stuff that we did and stuff that we did to help other people. And it just, when it's all said and done, he's the guy that knows how to get the best out of me. So if I'm going to have one last match, I want it to be him to pull it out of me. We've done things that to this day I've never seen people do in the ring. I'm pretty sure you were there when him and Red had their stage battle during their match.
Oh yeah. The street fight style fight.
Have you ever seen anything like that in a match? No. Have you ever seen anything that they did the first Ring of Honor time that they wrestled, or TNA match that they had where they pull out the John Woo stuff? No. He innovates harder than anybody else, and because he takes this sport so serious. And notice I said sport. It's not. It's nothing else but sport to him.
Yeah.
He gets a bad rap of being a jerk. Sometimes he could talk to people harsh, and I've told him, I don't like the way you say things, but at the same time, he believes what he believes. And when you have someone who's that dedicated to making something better, you deal with the bad that comes with the good. I'm not saying that it's all right. I'm just saying you accept it. And he's got a rep. There's a lot of guys who hate him, a lot of guys who think that he's a jerk. Sometimes I think he's a jerk. I say it all the time. His real name, Brandon. I love Brandon, but I hate Loki. That's a big joke. You know what I mean? There would be times where people are afraid to say anything. But, Brandon, what you going to do, son? What you going to do? You know what I mean? He hates being called Brandon at the show. But I do it, because I can. I am older by a few months, so fuck you.
Oh, man.
When we get together and we're just chilling and vibing, it's like we're still kids. And I wanna be around. Like, if I'm gonna have one lasting image, like the last time I worked in the Rahway Rec Center, because there were so many times Jersey All Pro had shows there. Last time I wrestled there was under the Wrestle Pro banner, and I didn't know if I was gonna wrestle there again. And to be honest, I still haven't wrestled there since. So, oh no, I'm sorry. You know what? I wrestled under Jersey All Pro.
There's a lot.
I did it during JP too. But I looked at the ceiling, and I looked at the fans, and I looked at the building, and I it's kind of crazy because I just watched the thing on The Undertaker this week's episode where he's talking about MSG, and he looks around, and I did that at Rahway, and it's a place that I grew up in, a place that we made famous. It's been on TV because of us. A lot of people who have bought tapes and DVDs over the years know that building because of JAP and because of the stuff that we did. And, like when I watch, every once in a while, I'll watch when I did the call for Generico, Sami Zayn, the Brainbuster call. That building was packed, and I love that memory of that visual, not even the video, but just in my mind, being there live, seeing it packed. Seeing Frank walk around, because Frank had like ADD, he couldn't stay still, and he just, look at that, look at that, look at that, look at that. Matter of fact, I was just talking about the other day, the first time he ever booked Sumi Sakai, she had just come from Japan, she wasn't here that long, and Frank comes up to me, beeline straight for me. I was watching to the side because I always wanted to see Sumi, and he goes, "Oh, she's booked forever. Why, Frank? I love her. She makes the Japanese noise. Ah! And like, you know what I mean? Like, it was in that building. You know what I mean? Like, I totally see that. You know what I mean? It just memories like that. You know, like I said, me and Moff wrestled the last JP show there against Team Tremendous, Dan Barry, Bill Carr. And those are two guys I always wanted to wrestle, and I'm glad that we got a chance to wrestle them there. And they were last minute booking too, which was a crazy thing. But as we were hugging them after the match, I was looking around and I see my daughter, and it's kind of funny, ironic. My daughter was holding the Jersey All Pro Wrestling women's title. She happened to be ringside by the commentators, and she was holding onto the belt, watching me. And I'll never forget that visual. Like, that was one of the coolest things ever, you know, and in that building. So, like, I have things like that, you know. Actually, the same thing happened last time I wrestled at the ECW Arena. You know, I looked around and I'm just like, man, it's crazy that I got to do this, you know, here, and the history of this building and the venue. And, you know, sometimes it's surreal because, you know, and I've said this a bunch of times. I hope people don't think it's something that I just say because, you know, I'm trying to be cool. But in my mind, I'm always going to see myself as some fat, short Hispanic kid from Brooklyn. Wasn't supposed to be anything. Wasn't supposed to do anything. Nothing phenomenal about me. And I got to be a famous pro wrestler and travel the world and get paid for it. And like, you know, and lately I take notice of a lot of things. And, you know, when you see, like, one of the things I found online was I'm the most famous person in the history of the world with my last name, which is weird. You know what I mean? When you think about the thousands of years, you know, and I'm the most famous person with my last name. Why? What did I do? I didn't change the world. I just fake beat people up for a living. You know what I mean? Like, that's kind of cool. And you have to really say that, you know, you're fortunate if that's been how your life has been, you know?
Yeah.
So.
Awesome. Okay. So my infamous question, I ask every wrestler that comes on here this question because I love the answer. What's been the craziest thing a fan's done to get your attention?
All right. So there's a little bit of backstory. Now, with everybody trying to cancel everybody on Twitter and everybody trying to, you know, get people in trouble for stuff they did years ago when things were different times. There's a story about a different time. And it was, I want to say it was like 2000, 2001, maybe a little bit later. No, like 2000, 2001. It was me, Moff, referee Hansen, and Low-Key. We went out to Pittsburgh to go wrestle for the Samoans. So that whole weekend was just a bizarre night. The whole weekend. I mean, just insane. First, while we were driving, Hansen was driving, and Low-Key decided Hansen's hair looked out of place. So he took the rug that was on the floor of the car and he rolled it so that the bottom was out. So, you know, it has the spikes.
Okay.
While he was driving, decided to brush Hansen's hair and pull it and rip it out while Hansen was driving. Mm-hmm. Then, maybe about 5 minutes later, Hansen's still complaining. And Moff goes, "Hey, Hansen, you know what?" Hansen's like, "What?" And Moff pulls the emergency brake while he's doing 75 on the highway.
Oh, my God.
So, you know, it wasn't a good weekend for Hansen. It was a pretty crappy weekend. And, you know, we wrestle. We get back to the hotel. We ordered Domino's. And I remember we had asked Hansen, we're like, "Hansen, you want anything?" I think because, you know, he was a referee, so he probably maybe made $40, $30. No, I don't really. And we were like, "No, don't worry about it. We got you." No. So we put in our order. It was after midnight. It was like 12:30. We put in our order. It might have been 12:29, actually. A minute later, Hansen, "You know what? I'll order something." But we had just hung up the phone. "All right, we'll call him and add it to our order." We call. "Hi, we just called. We'd like to add one more pizza." "Oh, we're sorry. We can't do anymore." "But we just called a minute ago." And "Yeah, no, we can't add any more to that order. It's already in our computer." And our computer
no.
So Hansen's like, "What the hell?" Hansen's pissed. Right. One more thing of note. The next morning, I forgot what Moff did to Key, but Moff went to go take a shower after whatever prank he pulled on Key. Went to go into the shower, and Key jumped up and goes over by the door, and it was one of those hotels where the sink is right outside the bathroom door.
Okay.
I don't see it. It's around the corner, and I hear, what the hell is that? And I look, and Key, looking like a spider monkey, squat down and has the hairdryer, and he's blowing it on the door handle of the bathroom door. He was there for about 15 minutes just blow drying this friggin' door handle. So we hear Moff turn off the water. waiting. He burned his hand on the door handle. What the fuck?
Oh my.
Oh man.
So I mean, the whole weekend was all about laughing, right? So on the way back, we left at like 8 in the morning, and we're driving. And this is where it gets a little crazy. We're driving, and these kids pull up on the side of us, and the one kid in the back, it was like one guy and like 3 girls in the car. One kid, he like sticks his tongue out. Now Key's driving, so he sticks his tongue out of Key, like, you know. Okay, so Moff looks at him like, pull up. So they speed off, get up next to them.
Oh no.
I forgot what he did on the first try, but then the second try, the kid passes us and he moons us. I got him. So we fucking get ready. We pull up next to him. Moff drops his pants, moons him, but has a Red Bull can in his ass.
Oh,
and when he spreads his cheeks, the can drops out. Those kids didn't want to play no more. They stayed behind. Right?
Oh my god.
We're doing good, you know. We're like, all right, let's get something to eat. So we stop at Cinnabon, and it was packed because now it's like 9:30 in the morning. Everybody's on the road.
Yeah.
So we go into Cinnabon, and we get whatever food we're gonna eat. And we're like, let's go eat by the car. It's too hot in here. There's a lot of people. Let's go stand outside the car. All right, cool. So the 4 of us are standing outside his car eating, just BSing. And Moff notices a bus pulls up right behind us, maybe goes past us like maybe 10 feet. And the door opens, and there's like about 40 black people walking out, all different ages, different sizes. And maybe about 20 feet after the last black person gets out, these 2 little old white people get out. So we all like, huh? And Moff goes, what? He looks and he goes, excuse me. He's pointing to the white people. Do you own all of them?
Oh no.
So the white people were like, huh? It's like, the black people, do you own all of them? So we start laughing hard. I mean, I almost choked on a Cinnabon. Like, it was just insanity. Poor Hanson laughed so hard, he accidentally threw out his wallet with his Cinnabon, didn't even notice it. And he couldn't drive the rest of the way home. We had to drive.
Oh.
But, so now this goes to your question. We had a show, and 2 people that we knew that we were cool with, they had desperately tried to get us to break character because we were always serious coming out as the hit squad. I mean, like, I would crack a smile every once in a while, but like I was always, Moff was always grumpy. He looked like Shrek, angry Shrek. You know what I mean? And we hear, Steve, Danny, and we look, and it's Gina and Hope, and they're both holding up signs that say, "Do you own all of them?"
Oh, oh
It was the
no!
only time I ever saw Moff break character mad hard.
Oh man!
So that was the time that we got.
Oh jeez! Yeah. Oh damn!
You know, it was a long way to get to that
Yeah.
point.
Oh wow! That's crazy. Oh man.
I mean, That's a good time.
You broke
but
Ray.
My favorite visual will always be Key, like I said, like a spider monkey.
Yeah.
Just.
Oh man, that's great. Oh, geez.
Oh man.
There was
Okay.
and this has nothing to do with the fans trying to get our attention, but at the old original Elks Lodge in Queens, Xavier was wrestling Prince Nana, and for whatever reason, I don't know what started it, but it was me, Key, Samoa Joe. There was like 2 other guys, but I can't remember who exactly. But for whatever reason, the curtain where everybody came out, there was holes because the guys from ECW used to rip the holes to look through. So there was holes and you could see right to the ring. So all you saw was one hand from one guy, the other hand from the other guy, and we're making X for Xavier. So I don't know who started it, but then we went up to the balcony and we were X, X, X. We went to the other side, X, X, X. All throughout the building. Nana and Xavier were so pissed. But like when you think back, me, Joe, Moff, Key, and like I said, I wish I could remember who the other guy was. But like just the 4 of us at the time where we were like super serious. You know what I mean? Joe and Key especially. And we're all X, 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 X.
Oh no.
It was insanity.
A hot
Insanity.
mess. Oh jeez.
Oh my god.
Ray.
Okay. Let me try to compose myself for the next question. Oh god. And I thought I've heard some crazy hotel stories, but okay. Okay.
That's ones I just can't tell.
Oh jeez.
No.
Oh god.
Okay. So you are known for being a part of a very legendary tag team, the Hit Squad.
Mm-hmm.
You look at tag team wrestling today. Who stands out? Who catches your eye?
Well, I mean, right away, we're going to go with Santana and Ortiz, but that's partially because they were groomed by us.
Yeah.
You know, we met them in their very first year. We wrestled them for Ludus when Joel Maximo had his own school, and they were just starting to team up. And they weren't really sure what they were going to do. But the very first time we got in the match with them, it was the finals of a tag tournament. And Moff and Santana are about to lock up for the first time, and the lights go out in the building.
Oh no.
The coolest shit though, because there was like one little light and it looked like kind of like a backlight, black light, you know? So everything was glowing, and like everybody just, the level of intensity just raised up. And kind of from that point on, we kind of knew something special was there. And then beyond, we got to do stuff with them. And that's really where we got to, you know, we have, and I really hope Beyond puts it out one day. We had a 2 out of 3 falls match. And it was my favorite match with them. Everything was different about it. Nothing was, you know, a normal conventional match the way tag teams have. And, you know, again, the electricity, because Beyond, the fans are right on top of the ring. So you feel it, you know, and that's part of the reason why we had such a great run at Beyond, was because the fans were right there. You know, when they're feeling something, they're literally screaming into the ring, and you feel that bounce off of you. And, you know, that's something that we'll always love, because feeling the fans, there's no other environment outside of maybe Germany where it feels like that, you know? And, you know, just being in there with Mike and Angel, they were us, but they were just more athletic, and they were younger, and, you know, they were so hungry. And, you know, just being able to work with them was something special that, you know, I got to be in there with Russ and Charlie Haas, who before Mike and Angel, those were our guys. And we got to help them get to WWE. And, you know, unfortunately, Russ passed away before they got a chance. So, you know, we never got a chance to see the Haas brothers really perform, even though Charlie and Shelton were amazing, you know. But it really should have been Charlie and Russ, you know. And but we got a chance to, again, be in there from the beginning with the Haas brothers, and we got to share that experience. The SAT were guys, you know, Joel and Kelvin, Jose, and then Will later. I mean, we made so much good magic with them. The fact that I was able to take the last Spanish Fly from Joel and Jose, and then Joel and Will, I was the last guy for both sets to take the Spanish Fly. And I shouldn't be getting on the top rope, but for whatever reason, it was like, gravity didn't exist when we were on the ropes together. And, so when I see guys like today, and I see like the Young Bucks and, just Private Party, guys like that, I see the athleticism show. And it's really amazing to see some of the stuff that they pull off. Yeah. The only thing I wish is that people, like the Revival does it, tell better stories where the bad guy's clearly the bad guy, good guy's clearly the good guy. And there's a lot of chances for teams to really have that Rock and Roll Express magic, but they don't know how to control themselves, where instead of trying to tell the story, they're trying to get a pop. If you listen, the pops for the Rock and Roll Express were so much bigger than anything else outside of the Road Warriors. And, it's crazy when I look back at it. Like, I've been in the ring with the greatest tag teams of all time, the Road Warriors, Demolition, Doom, the Steiner Brothers, Samoan. Like, I've been in there with everybody except the Rock and Roll Express, ironically enough. But I got to be in the ring with some of the best from the past, and I got to be in the ring with some of the best from today. Gargano and Ciampa, Viking Express, Viking Experience, what are they called now? I never know.
Right? I think they're the Viking Raiders right now.
Raiders, there you go. I mean, I got to be in there with them, and Hero and JT Dunn, and some of the best tag teams I got to be in the ring with, and it's really cool for me. I mean, like I said before, I really feel that I'm a nobody who got fortunate. So I got to be in there with teams like the Headhunters, who I idolized, and then I go to Japan and I'm called the Next Generation Headhunters. And like, I get to be in there with Mike and Angel, and they're called the Next Generation Hit Squad. And like, it's just really passing on. And, even with some of the girls, like the Sea Stars, I didn't know jack about the Sea Stars until I reffed their match with Mike and Angel. And they're phenomenal. You know what I mean? There's a lot of tag teams out there who really need to be seen. I love Bear Country. Bear Country is my team. The Rep, those are my guys. Tristan Ty and Gabriel Sky, I love those guys. Those guys are amazing. And Silver and Reynolds. Like, I get to see all these guys. And for me, that's the coolest part. Because I help them out some places. I help them out in the back. And sometimes I get to help them out in the ring. And like, for me, I'm like I said, I'm just enjoying the ride. So I get to like mark out that like, yeah, all right, I'm making this happen. So, when I see how tag team wrestling is today, like I said, the only thing I wish that they did was put more of a story element. Yeah. I guess, people are getting conditioned to being more athletic, less story driven. And, it's cool, but it'll save lives once they start learning how to tell a story.
Yeah. Wow. Okay, so since, I got the chance to see you at Escape from New York. Unfortunately, you didn't come out on top. I'm sorry. Are you looking to return this year? And if so, who's going to be part of the winning team?
So, I don't want to give away who my squad will be.
Okay.
All I'm saying is things are in the works for a potential cop killer to be given.
Ooh. Okay.
Is that good enough for you guys?
Yeah. So
I'll tell you.
That's just one. I don't want to say anything else because the rest of it, it should be kept in the shadows.
Oh, okay.
That's good enough for me. Hey, that little teaser there. If you could read between the lines, you kind of know where he's going.
But I will say this. I hope that BWF starts to bring in other guys because there's a guy like a Bruce Leroy how do you say his name? Bruce. I
think you're wanting to go for Leroy Green.
There you go.
Leroy.
His name from Bruce Leroy, but it's
yeah. You guys knew who I meant.
Leroy.
I told you I'm at that age where I don't remember names anymore.
Leroy's good on the pod.
You, hey.
Leroy's been on the podcast too, so I gotta get him to come back. He's great.
I've enjoyed his work. I loved when him and Key did their Street Fighter segment.
Yes. House of Glory.
Or man, people want to take a dump on Key, but he's doing things to get the younger guys involved and to show off and showcase. And he knows that if someone gets to show off and showcase with him, that it's going to mean more than if they show off and showcase with any Joe Blow. You know what I mean? So he's trying to do things, but he also is selective with who he does it with.
Yeah.
But for whatever reason, he chose Leroy to pull that Street Fighter stuff off with, and I thought that was amazing.
It was a good time. Yeah.
Yeah. But there's guys like him that I'd like to see. Tristan Ty, Gabriel Sky. I love those two, and I love them as singles and a tag. So I'd like to see more of them in BWF if possible. I know they're there all the time. I'm very high on Dominic De Niro. I really think that within the next year, he's going to start to hit his stride really hard. And that's saying something because he's a champ right now, BWF champ. Unfortunately for him, the NYC title is in my hands, and I'm trying to make that a bigger title than everything else there.
All right.
Bringing in big names and better talent. And, just beating up on everybody else that's there. You guys see, I'm a cool dude. I'm not here to, be a Pinky in the Brain type, Hitler type leader. You know what I'm saying? I legit hate the Bronx. I say this with all sincerity in my heart. I hate the Bronx. So when I talk about my disgust of the Bronx in my promos, it's real. Like, I really hate the Bronx. So every time I have to cross over the GWB, which I hate the GWB, and I have to sit there and look at all those people in that dirty building, I really wish there was a better building for BWF. You have no idea. I hate it.
I feel you.
Go in the ring and have the mic in my hand. I usually have a smile on my face because I know I'm about to say some real shit and hurt some real feelings. I know like I said, the last time I was there, or one of the last times I was there, it was right after Kobe passed away, and I made my little remarks about Kobe, and people were like, "Oh, too soon." Who gives a fuck? But my favorite line was when I dropped the line about, I didn't know they accepted EBT at the front door. And people were like, "Damn, son, why?" People really felt that. And that made me feel good inside my soul. Like, up. I was like, "Oh," and came right back down because I was in the Bronx.
Man.
So, in seriousness, I do hate the Bronx, but I do love BWF. And outside of the last show, which unfortunately the COVID-19 thing started, and people were staying home. But before that, we were building a nice crowd, and there were people who were more and more people were starting to come. And that's some of the work that we were doing. And, I'm proud of when stuff like that happens because I've been there for a bunch of other companies that way, where there's like maybe 50 people. Next month, there's 75. Month after that, 150. And it builds and builds and becomes the talk of the town. And based on what I have in mind, just off my stuff alone, I feel like that can happen. And I know that there's other stuff, like I said, the stuff for Dominic De Niro and TJ Marconi, their stuff. The visuals that Marconi's guys have brought with their filming and, just the presentation, the storyline telling, it's what the future of wrestling is becoming, and it's not just cinematic wrestling, but it's movie quality storytelling. Yeah. And I think that if you're going to stop saying that pro wrestling's real and that there's an element of, broken kayfabe or whatever it is, but it's entertainment, then start presenting it that way. I come from a generation where everybody protected everything. And it's hard sometimes for certain guys. For me, I don't care. It's not that I don't care about kayfabe and I don't care about the business that made me money, but the magic is out. It's been out. It's been out before I even got in the business. But at the same time, you could still play with people's emotions. How many movies do we go and see that we pay for? I mean, The Joker. How many people love The Joker and felt it in a certain way, even though we didn't grow up during that time, or most of us didn't grow up during that time. I did, but nobody really knows any psychopaths like that. But that story you feel, and even if you know nothing about Batman and Joker, you felt that movie. A lot of people did.
Yeah.
That's what entertainment can do. And if you do it right, we all love the Undertaker's match with AJ at WrestleMania. I know for me, I love the Bray and John Cena match more. And it's not because, AJ's one of my boys, you know what I mean? But the presentation of Cena and Bray, for me, I loved it. They told history. They told stories. They talked about the past. They acknowledged things that nobody did. And then they dropped this is some great shit. And everyone lost their mind at the same time. That was the best part about social media wrestling. Everybody lost their mind. Some great shit. You know what I mean? So, I love stuff like that. And if they're going to continue to trend towards that way, then that's fine with me. As long as they don't overkill, even this weekend with AEW with their Stadium Showdown nonsense, that was phenomenal. Not because my friends are in it.
Yeah.
It was a phenomenal match. It was insane. I loved every aspect of that match. And then you watch the rest of the pay-per-view. The rest of the pay-per-view was great wrestling. It just, that's what you need to have. Great wrestling. And then you give a little bit of a break and you have fun.
Yeah.
When you're having fun, who cares? You can tell Undertaker had fun with AJ. That was the best Undertaker match we've seen since he wrestled Shawn Michaels at WrestleMania.
Yep.
Yes.
If he's having fun and you could tell, why not?
It's always the best.
Yeah, it's those subtle elements. It's that element of just let it be disbelief for a bit.
Yeah.
And let that story tell it. They're like, I can watch this and not even question a thing.
Mm-hmm.
It's pure again. It's that pure just fun that we want to see.
Storytelling.
Yeah.
It's movies. That's all it is. It's movies. When you look back at Hogan and Macho Man, they built that whole story for a year, from WrestleMania 4 to WrestleMania 5. And there's a reason why it comes off as one of the best build-ups, because they put work and care into telling the story. How did the friendship happen? It was Miss Elizabeth. How did it start to break? Macho Man was jealous that Liz was spending time with Hogan. Hogan grabbed her butt at SummerSlam. And he didn't do it on purpose. He was lifting her up and his hand was on her butt. That part, it broke everybody down. You know what I mean? And
right.
It was that storytelling. That's what wrestling needs to be again. Because everybody can do a million moves. We've seen it. These guys, especially in WWE, they're all ultra talented.
Yeah.
Now you got to give a reason for people to invest in watching that character fight. And Matt Hardy's the biggest genius of them all. He started doing it way before everybody else. Everybody was all about the ultimate deletion and all that stuff. It was phenomenal. It was low rate, but it was phenomenal. And he started that nonsense. There was other stuff before him, but that's where it really took off. And, when you look at, when he did the Pool of Reincarnation with Mike and Angel, I pissed myself laughing. That was the greatest shit in the last year that I've seen. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Just him changing and then him giving the face every time. That was the greatest shit ever. I love that,
Yeah, it broke me. And again, it's just that pure fun.
Yeah.
It's pure fun that you need in wrestling. You need that, man. So, to not keep you for much longer, we're down to, I think, our last two questions here. So, we're going to try to take it home here. So, my last question. Well, I usually do this with people, especially that I know and truly respect here. It's more of a last statement that I do. So, truly want to say, again, Mac, thank you for everything you've done for this business. As a kid, again, like I said earlier, I'm a young 21-year-old here that's watched DHS, SAT, Divine Storm, Rottweilers, Special K, you name it. I grew up watching you guys. And seeing you guys pave the way for wrestling that we look at today, it started with you guys. I just hope one thing, and that's to make you all proud one day. As someone that wants to do this thing. So, thank you again.
Thank you. Good luck on your road to happiness. I will tell you, it's not easy. Be prepared to give a lot of sacrifice. For the longest time, me and Moff would always end our promos with, "Are you ready to make the sacrifice?" And that was some real nonsense, because this business, people sacrifice their family, sacrifice their love. And for a fake sport, it's very real, the stuff that happens, and it's not easy. It's very easy to get discouraged. And I hope that never finds your way, to you, to keep you from doing what you want to do. If this is what you love, do it by all means. If you ever need any advice or, anything, you could always come to me. I mean, you guys see, I'm pretty approachable, to me, like I said, I'm just a big kid. I love wrestling. I know a lot about it. My friends know a lot about it. And I'm always trying to find out more. And if I'm learning and I'm 23 years in, there's no excuse for you not to continue to learn and want to learn more. So as long as you stay hungry, anytime you need advice, hit me up, and for you, Tiff, anytime you need some advice with, interviewing or anything like that, I've done that too. I've been, like I said, part of podcasting since like 2004, 2005.
It's a pain.
I've been a part of every aspect. I mean,
it's good stuff.
And like, it's cool that, I just want you guys to understand that no matter what your dreams are, I've been doing this for 23 years and I had given up on my, I guess, goal of making it to any part of WWE. I always told my boys that got signed, I was the originator of this. So anybody else who says that they came up with it, no, this is me, my original idea. Anybody that went to WWE, I don't want a match. I don't want to be an extra. All I ever wanted was to have catering at Madison Square Garden. That's the real. Ask Bandito, ask the Haas brothers, Jay Lethal. I told them all that. Hey, you make it, and the other thing was, if you get to a point where you can help someone, do it. Help yourself first. But if you can get to a point where you can help someone, do it. Because that's how this business stays pure, stays good. And you teach them to do the same. But after 23 years of doing this, to finally get the call, and it's ironic because it would be a truly Steve Mack thing. Yeah, I eat catering at the Garden, but it's Boston Garden of all places. New York boy eating at Boston Garden.
Oh,
what the hell is that nonsense? You know what I mean? But I got to have catering at the Garden, and I got to do it 3 times in less than 6 months. And no matter what I do, if I never step foot in the ring again, I can be happy with that because it was my own work.
Oh man, that's great.
There, and it was my own willingness to put myself out there. They got me there. But there was a few people that helped me out along the way. Guys like Homicide, Lathon, Jay Lover, Low Key, Low Life Louie, Buffy, Mace, SAT, Fat Frank, Bobby Lombardi. There's a few others. And if I don't say your name, please do not take it the wrong way. Guys like Guapo and my girl Liza. And like, there's a bunch of people who helped me out and helped me in a way that, at times when I forgot myself and who I was, they were right there to remind me. So as long as you have people like that in your corner, you never go wrong. And you always have to, even if you keep your circle tiny to like 2 people, that's fine. There's nothing wrong with being a circle of 2, 3. You know what I mean? And don't ever feel pressure to do what everybody else is doing. Be yourself. Turn it up to 11.
Great. Oh man. Well, it's funny because I always end the podcast with this. So to all inspiring or amateur wrestlers out there, what's a piece of advice that you would give them?
First things first, no matter what, always have a backup. You don't have to go to college, but do something. Be a mechanic, be a computer tech, something to fall back on, because you never know. Anything can happen. You could break a leg, you could break an arm, God forbid, worse. And wrestling won't always be there. As a lot of me and my guys that are around the same age as me are finding out, not everybody's fortunate enough to have a 25-year plus career. Your body starts to break down at a certain point. And for someone like me, who's never really, really in shape or anything like that, it's starting to break down faster for me because I didn't take care of myself like I should have when I needed to. And I'm learning that now. And it's a shitty lesson to learn because especially when things start to get good, and you're like, But that's when life reminds you, hey, you're human. And always have something to fall back on, because wrestling, as much as you love wrestling, it's not always going to be there for you. You know? And also know your limits, because, you know, you can either settle for less or you can overachieve and do more. But if you don't know what your limits are, how can you know what the line is? You know, a lot of guys settle for less, and they don't even realize that they don't have to work that much harder to get over and overachieve to what their limits are. Don't be afraid to test yourself. You know, this business isn't easy. Like I said, there's a lot of snowflakes out there where if you say anything, they get oh, I'm gonna tell everyone's gonna cancel you. Let me just tell you, one of my favorite stories. I was in Puerto Rico and I was wrestling. I was a bad guy, and it was my last night in Puerto Rico. And I'm wrestling Ricky Banderas, and where we were wrestling, the ring was like about 20 feet away from this guardrail. We were like on a tennis court, which is really weird, indoor tennis court, and the fence was about 20 feet away from the ring, and there was nobody inside the fence, just the ring, the referee, and the wrestlers. And we go over by the fence, we're brawling, and there's this girl, little girl, she's squatting down, come on, Ricky, in Spanish. So I look at her and I point at her, like I make it blatantly obviously that I'm looking at her, and I bring my leg all the way back there, like my heel touched the back of my ankle. My heel touched the back of my neck, and I kicked the fence, but I gave her enough time to where she could move. She moves, I kick the fence, people start going nuts, they start throwing rocks at me, all kinds of shit. So after the show, we go and we stop maybe about 5 miles down the road. And if you've been in Puerto Rico, you know there's only like really 2 main roads, you know?
Yep.
So we're on the main road, and we stop at this restaurant, and I'm standing on line, and this lady comes up to me. She, housewife, glasses, you know, she had like a Karen haircut, you know what I'm saying? And perfect English. That was the scariest shit to me. It was perfect English, and I still, to this day, hear her voice, see her face, calm as could be. Excuse me, you were wrestling at the show tonight down the road? And I was like, yeah. Now I'm thinking it's maybe one of my mom's cousins that I don't know, because I don't really know all the family that well. You know, just some ones that I see every time. I'm like, yeah, hi. And she's like, well, you know, that little girl that was on the fence that you kicked, that was my daughter. And I was like, oh, I'm sorry. You know, I'm just trying to. And she goes, no, I'm just telling you now. And she opens up her purse and she takes out this long ass knife. And she goes, next time you're here, if you ever see my daughter and do that again, this is going to be inside of you. And she calmly walked away. Perfect English. Perfect fucking English. Like, you know, like if it's a jibaro, someone from the fucking mountains, you know, they, mira, pendejo, que tú haces? Like that. No, perfect English. So, like, that shit showed me the power of pro wrestling.
Oh, man.
Like, if you could get someone who speaks perfect English, looks like she was very well educated, for her to react that way, I know I did something right. Scary as it was.
Oh, my goodness.
You know, if you invest in yourself and you know what your limits are and where to go and what you can do and what you can't do, you can do anything, you know, and like that's just, you have to experiment. You have to try and do things outside of your comfort zone. And a lot of people aren't willing to do that. And, you know, they get stuck in a box. They don't make it anywhere past where they make it, you know, and that's why I'm happy to see like Private Party make it to TV, because I always felt those guys were so inside their heads sometimes. They were afraid to push it, you know, and once they got outside of that thinking, I mean, they've been on TV. They're one of the top tag teams for AEW. And for me, that's really awesome to see, you know, and that could be anybody. That's not just, you know, like, don't just think because you're from the hood or you don't speak good English or you're too short or you listen. One of the coolest dudes that I know that gave me love last time I saw him in Brooklyn was Rey Mysterio. I met him at JAP. He remembered me throughout the years. I saw him in Boston last year. And when I saw him again in Brooklyn this year, yo, big man, what's up? In front of everybody. Like, I'm a nobody, you know what I mean? But he's showing me love in front of everybody. Dude's only 5'3". You know what I mean? Anybody could do this. You just got to have the heart, passion, will. But be smart about it. Have a backup and know who you are and know your limits. Because if you don't do any of that stuff, nothing.
Yeah. Well, that's great advice. Thank you so much for that. So tell everybody where they can fight you. So if they want to follow you.
I am on Twitter at Steve Mack DHS, the Hit Squad. By the way, fuck the Desi Hit Squad and whoever let them be on Impact. Because those motherfuckers call themselves DHS. There's only one DHS, and if it ain't me, and it ain't Moff, and it ain't Homicide, and it ain't Low Key, go fuck yourself royally. You might be guys, but fuck you. The Hit Squad, Steve Mack, EVEMACK, DHS on Twitter. Everything else is Facebook and whatever is private. I might bring back my Steve Mack Facebook page one day. It's too much drama, too much political nonsense. A lot of people with stupid opinions. I don't need to see any of that nonsense. It's bad enough with Twitter, but at least I have something that people, if they want to reach out to me, they can.
Hey, guys. The link is below in the description. By the way, Matt Awesome's in the chat. He said that he misses all of us. He said, miss you all. He said, sup to you. Hey, it's the New York thing. I think me and Ray did that to one of our Maryland friends recently. And they were like, what? We're like, it's a New York thing.
Deuces and Marrow. I always forget.
I don't know.
But they're Showtime, and they had AOC on, and the way they, when they get to her office, they're like, yeah, and she pops right, yeah.
It needs to be a shirt. We need to make this a shirt. But guys,
AOC, come to a show. I will vote for you. I don't even vote. I'm not Republican. I'm not Democrat. Come to a show, AOC, please.
Oh.
You serve me drinks anytime, mama.
Guys, also make sure we're sponsored by Power Slam TV, so go check out. You'll get 1 month free if you use the code NOHOLDSFREE. So go check it out. I'm sure you'll see Steve Mack on there. I'm pretty sure if you just do a search for him, you'll find a bunch of matches that he's in. So go check it out. So yeah, so I guess we're gonna wrap this up. Anything else that you guys have to say? Thanks again.
I'm good. Thank you guys for having me. It's awesome. I can't wait for shows to come back on. Everybody, please be safe. I know a lot of people are tired of wearing masks, but you got to remember, you're not protecting yourself. You're protecting the person next to you. And they're doing the same to you by wearing their mask. As stupid as it sounds, because, we're New Yorkers. We can handle anything. If we drank from the fountains at the playground when we were kids and lived, we should. But not all of us have that strong immunity, okay? So.
That is so true. But last thing I can say again, thank you so much for coming on. Like I've always told Tiff, it's funny. I'll tell this now in person because this is something in wrestling. You've been around, especially you're from Brooklyn, especially from New York. Mac, you're known as Theo to all of us. Yeah. So it still lives on, especially in my heart. You're like one of my wrestling Theos. Love you, man. Thank you so much again for coming on.
Yes, we totally appreciate it.
My nephews out there, be safe and stay strong,
Yes.
Thank you for.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for coming on. And thank you guys for watching us. Make sure you subscribe, hit that like button, and share. It's so appreciated. So, guys, this is, again, Under the Ropes, episode 31. Thank you guys so much. We'll see you guys soon.
Hey, real quick,
Something you owe me.